I'm the opinion editor at the Sun Sentinel. With me are my colleagues Dan Sweeney and Martin Dykman. All three of us will ask you questions, and you'll have a chance to expand and expound on anything you feel is important. We'll have about 45 minutes or so. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Mastarrigo?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. If we call you by your first and last name, or Miss Kistner or Miss Mastarrigo, it's not to be excessively formal. It's we're not personal friends. You're candidates. We're the Sun Sentinel, and we want to use this to illuminate your strengths and the contrast, if there is any, between you and your opponent. Let me say right at the outset that there's a third candidate in this race, Tamar Hamilton. She indicated to me by email that she was not going to participate in this interview, nor has she sent in a questionnaire. So that's her option. That will certainly be a factor we will consider in deciding who to recommend in this race. So I'll begin by asking a couple of questions of you, Ms. Mastarrigo. You work for the Public Defender's Office, correct? Oh, I'm sorry, unmute your microphone there. Huh. What was it? There, you just had it.
At the bottom to the left, there should be a little microphone button. You'll need to click on that. There you go.
Okay, it's delayed on my side. I don't know what I look like on your side. You guys are in and out of being frozen.
Yeah, you're a little bit. Your image is a little bit shaky, but we can hear you okay.
Okay, so if you can hear me okay, then that's what matters.
Okay.
Yes, I do currently work at the Public Defender's Office in Broward County.
And tell us specifically, what is your exact title there?
My title now is Deputy Chief Assistant Public Defender.
Okay. What do your duties, your daily duties entail? What do you do?
I am in charge of training. I'm in charge of what we have named the PD Academy. So I train new attorneys that come in hired. I train them as they progress through the office. And then we try to have one training per month that's for the whole office in a general topic that would apply to everybody. I have a few other things that I'm in charge of. I'm also in charge of supervising 6 felony divisions in our circuit court. I also in charge of complaints that come in from our clients or from family members regarding concerns on their cases, concerns regarding our attorneys. I'm also in charge of interns. This summer right now we have, I think, 35 interns right here that I have assigned to attorneys already.
The public, I go back far enough to remember in the early days of Alan Schreiber being public defender in Broward County. So
I had to work for Mr. Schreiber.
Right, you've worked for Howard the whole time, Howard, and now Mr. Weeks, correct?
Right. So I started with Alan Schreiber's the one that gave me my first job. I actually interned underneath him for a year and a half while I was in law school. And then I left. And by the time I came back, then Howard Finkelstein was the new elected public defender. And Howard had known me as an intern because at the time he was in charge of the interns. And then Howard just retired and Mr. Weeks got elected in 2020 as our new elected public defender. So I got promoted under Howard.
Understand. Okay, I understand. I understand you train attorneys and your other responsibilities, but do you personally represent clients in court proceedings?
Not for the last 4 years. For the last 4 years, I only assist clients that my attorneys that I supervise have. So I go and help them with those, but I do not have cases that I take depositions on. I mean, I do it all as a trainer. So I assist new attorneys in taking depositions, but I'm not the attorney of record on those cases.
And since we're in a political campaign here, a contested judgeship, have either Howard Finkelstein or Gordon Weeks endorsed your candidacy?
Gordon Weeks has endorsed my candidacy and made sure he was my first donation to my campaign. Howard is not able to because he still works for Channel 7. So I know personally he is helping me and supporting me, but publicly he cannot endorse me because he is still a spokesperson for Help Me Howard on Channel 7.
Okay, and as a candidate, as a candidate for circuit judge and as a government employee, are you still employed full time by the PD's office during the campaign?
Yes, I am.
How are you balancing the demands on campaigning, especially during working hours, and your responsibility to the taxpayers?
Well, I'll take an hour here and there for any events that are during the day. Like right now, I have a vacation hour right now that I'm taking to do this. But a lot of the events are after hours. So I'm able to go to most events with no problems after hour.
Okay.
I work my full day and then attend the events after work.
Okay, thank you.
Ms.
Kistner, Denise Kistner, let me ask you to give us an introductory statement about yourself. I know you do a lot of family law and dependency litigation, I believe. Tell us about your legal background and why you want to be a judge.
Okay, for the last over 25 years, I've practiced here in Broward County, and the major portion of my practice has been in the area of the dependency cases, dependency court, with some family court. And I also do appeals in the dependency court. I have had some family court appeals and at least one civil appeal that I've handled, but that's the main area focus of my practice. I decided to be a judge many years ago, something that I've always wanted to do. And I've talked to a lot of people and mentioned it over the years, and received a lot of encouragement, and just was waiting for the right time, waiting for an open seat. I've operated my own practice all these years. And with that, also having a family, I've gotten to a point where my family obligations are not such that I need to attend to young children or anything of that sort. So it is the right time. This was an open seat. When I saw that, it just was the perfect timing for everything. And I've served the citizens of Broward County. I've been a court-appointed attorney in a lot of the dependency cases, although I do a lot of private cases in that area as well. But I've been court-appointed to represent the children as attorney ad litem, as well as the parents in those cases. And serving the public in that fashion and the some underserved areas of our community, as has really encouraged me to, again, take that next step and to be able to serve the citizens of Broward County, as a judge.
Okay. Tell me, this is an open seat. Why is this seat open, Ms. Kistner?
This seat is open because Judge Perlman is retiring. Her term is up at the beginning of next year. And when the seat is open like that, where the retirement comes at the end of a term, then it is open to the voters, which I think is a very important thing. The voters get a chance to have a say-so in, who is serving them in a public seat such as this.
How many times have you sought a judicial appointment through the Judicial Nominating Committee process?
I have not sought a judicial appointment. I did apply a couple of times for a magistrate position and did interview with the chief judge, but I unfortunately was not chosen. But I have not put an application in for appointment as a judge.
With your broad experience in family law and dependency work and so forth, have you done any work in Broward as a court-appointed mediator?
I have. Well, let me take that back. I recall I may have been appointed for at least one case, but I have served as a family mediator. I was certified for a short period of time some years ago, so some of it came as referrals. but very, very few cases. And I think I remember maybe one out of the cases that I mediated was probably court appointed.
I'm curious, how many times have you and Ms. Mastarrigo and your third opponent, Ms. Hamilton, how many times have you appeared together in a public forum before voters?
I think it's 4 or 5 times now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
us a-
it was a
3
few
or
of the Democratic clubs that have asked us to come speak beforehand.
right.
Last night, it was the Florida Republican caucus. I've seen Ms. Kistner more than I've seen Ms. Hamilton.
Okay, thanks for that elaboration. Ms. Mastarrigo, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Your questionnaire includes the statement by you that that the bench in Broward, the bench should reflect what the community looks like. I'd like you to elaborate on that statement. Tell us what you mean. We're aware of the fact that, of course, you were born in Argentina and born and raised in this country, I believe. I'm born in Argentina, but raised and educated in the United States. But what do you mean by a
Yes.
bench that looks more like what the community looks like?
Well, as anybody who's lived in Broward County has noticed throughout the years, our mixture of heritage has changed a lot. A lot of the people that come to court are some type of minority, whether it's a female, African American, Hispanic. For 5 years as a public defender, all I did was represent clients who did not speak English well, since I am fluent in Spanish. And it just makes a difference when any type of person walks into that courthouse and they see a judge that looks a little bit more like them. Our system is very scary to anybody who is from outside the US, because unfortunately, other countries don't have the great system that we do. And so they're not sure of our system. They don't know if it's the same as it is from all the countries they have come from. And it just puts a little bit more of an ease when there is that look from the bench that equals that from the community.
Okay.
I believe the minority groups have grown tremendously in Broward County in the last few years, at least since I've been practicing since 1999.
In your opinion, is racial and ethnic bias built into the criminal justice system in Broward County?
Yes. And at least in a lot of occasions, it's unconscious. I can tell you in the criminal system, there's people that do not understand or have not seen the way some of our defendants have grown up. And it is hard to educate them. You know, one of the examples that I like to always give is I had one client that would continuously keep breaking into vehicles. So that is a victim crime, obviously. But behind that crime, it was a person who was very addicted to drugs and had never gotten the help. And when I had to educate my prosecutor and at that time the judge that it was the substance abuse, not the just wanting to commit crimes, and that's why this person was doing, it was very difficult. I finally was able to convince the judge of that and was able to point out how this person would stop breaking into cars to steal stuff to then sell for his drug habit. So once I explained that, and once I was able to make that visible to them, then, you know, the client was able to get the substance abuse that he needed and then did not return back into the system. But until that was explained and understood by, unfortunately, people who have not been involved with that or have not seen that, it's difficult. So unfortunately, some of it is unconsciously done, but it's definitely alive in our system.
Ms. Kistner, how do you feel about that same question? Is racial and ethnic bias built in? Is it embedded in the Broward County criminal justice system?
I think I agree as well. I think that there's inherent bias that that we all have to deal with, and I think that we've come a long way in educating ourselves, our community, our police officers. My experience in that comes from cases that I have, which are crossover cases where my clients, let's say in a dependency or a family law case, or even a child that I represent, has a companion criminal case, and also, or a juvenile delinquency case. And, I've definitely seen disparities that, that don't have any other ordinary explanation into how those disparities have brought people into the courtroom, and then and how the services are available to them once they get to the courtroom to help prevent the recidivism, whether it's in the criminal court or in the dependency court, because we have the same problem there.
I see. Okay. All right. Let me just take a pause and ask Dan Sweeney and Martin Dykeman if you guys have any questions you want. Go ahead, Dan.
I have Ms. Mastarrigo. Steve brought up that one of your when you said we asked you your three major challenges facing justice in Broward County. He mentioned one of yours that you put, that the bench should reflect what the community looks like. Another one you said is professionalism from attorneys. And I wonder if you could delve a little more into that. How is the lack of professionalism among attorneys one of the largest problems facing the justice system in Broward County?
So I got to practice in the civil arena too for 2 to 3 years. And I also got to serve on the 17th Judicial Professionalism Panel and what I've seen in court. It has changed a lot since I started. Opposing counsel instead of attack on facts, attack on the item of the case. And that's professionalism. You have to be able to stand at the podium and no matter what is being said to you, maintain that composure of being able to argue your point and not disparage anybody else. And sometimes it is difficult, it is, but I can tell you, I have seen where it's name calling and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And that's not how our profession should be. And that's part of why attorneys are looked at so bad. Most of the people that talk bad about attorneys is that it's how we behave how we're not professional. We're not even tone. I mean, it's fine to have those different tones during a jury, in front of the jury panel or controlling a witness maybe. But when it comes to two attorneys that are arguing at the podium in front of the judge, the argument should always be towards the judge and not towards each other. And professionalism was one thing that I take really personal and to heart. I ended up winning the Lynn Fudge Professionalism Award last year. I was the youngest to receive it. It's for attorneys that have been practicing for 20 years or longer, and I'm right at 23. September will be 23 years for me. And I was nominated to that award by fellow attorneys, and then a committee of attorneys and judges were the ones that then made the decision to give to me. My thing is we're all adults and we're professionals, and no matter how passionate you are about which side you're arguing, you should be able to act like that when you're at the podium.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to Martin as a question too in just a second. I just wanted to, on a related note, Ms. Kistner, in your challenges, two of them were somewhat related, and that is, in one way or another, due to COVID or not due to COVID, the huge backlog of cases that the court has to deal with. Your other major challenge, you said, was that the courts need to continue to garner respect and remain independent from the political fray. I understand, especially at the Supreme Court level, they take a lot of hits on, the court is a lot more biased than it used to be, politically speaking, and all that. How big is this an issue, though, at the county and circuit court level, and what do you do if you're a judge to fight against that?
Well, for instance, last night we appeared in front of a partisan group that all the candidates were invited to. And it was very clear that the image that the public has of the court system, whether it is as high as the United States Supreme Court or the local court system, is that politics seeps in and influences judges' decisions, their biases, their view on the world. And so whether that happens in the same magnitude as it would, and the criticism for the U.S. Supreme Court, it's definitely something that, I've seen through talking to voters and understand that that's something that they have that impression of, even the trial court system. So as a judge, I think it's very important to make sure that you're explaining your decisions in a way that keep it strictly to the law, that we have a check. You know, we're human beings. Anybody who sits as a trial judge and has to make judgments on somebody's character or on somebody's credibility, you know, things that where there's a lot of discretion that the judge may have. I think we have to, as a judge, you know, I would have to sit there and make sure that I'm checking and taking that moment and making sure that I'm not, you know, drawing a conclusion or going into a direction because of something, some belief, something I heard on a, you know, a political show, anything that may influence that decision, and try as hard as possible to keep it to the facts and the people who are before me. And I think that's a personal thing. I think each judge has to do that on their own, and be mindful that even if they are not engaging in that type of conduct, that sometimes the general public, the people that we see every day in the court system, may not see it that way, and to make sure that we're clear in how we're approaching cases.
All right, thank you. Martin.
To both of you, I'm mindful of how the canons restrict what people can say in campaigns for the judgeships. We have a handicap, and we haven't met your opponent, the third person in this race. What can you tell us objectively about her that would help us to know?
Well, I think that you know, she cares about what she does. That's something that I've seen in the way that she talks. So her clients, the people that she's represented, I definitely think that there's you know, there's something that she clearly cares for who she has represented. You know, that's something I was able to glean from any of the times that I've heard her speak.
I've been able to talk to Ms. Kistner a lot more. I think she's very friendly and approachable when we run into each other in places. So I've learned more about her than I've learned about Ms. Hamilton. I think last night she told everybody for the first time that she's been practicing for 8 years. That's all I know. I don't think she's got court experience. She seems very nice too. And I would echo what Ms. Kistner said. She seems to care about the area of law that she practices in.
What area of law is that?
It's real estate. I know she did title work.
I believe is another thing that she's listed.
Right.
Although I haven't been able to confirm any of that.
Right.
Okay, thank you both for that. Ms. Kistner, have you ever had to sue a client for a non-payment of a legal fee?
No, I haven't. It's not something that I choose to take on. Unfortunately, as a private attorney, running your own business, it is, you know, the unfortunate consequence that sometimes you are left holding a bill that goes unpaid. But I think that it brings with it a lot of bad connotations. It opens you up to exploring things that even I think those clients would not want explored if you had to get into a debate with somebody in a public forum like a civil court over fees. I have participated in that. I've represented clients who have been sued. I haven't represented them, but I've been like a subsequent attorney, let's say, on a case. And I have to tell you, it just disrupts everything. It's not something that I have found, you know, the ethics, the appearance, the time was worth, you know, and over the years, you learn as a private attorney to get better and better at your billing, your frequency of billing, and making sure you're doing your own collection so you don't get to that position as often, but it's not something that I've chosen to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Mastarrigo, what's the starting salary of an assistant public defender in Broward County?
Right now it's at 50,000. I started at 42 back in 1999.
Would you have any idea how many assistant PDs are bilingual and speak both English and Spanish?
Right now in my office, we only have around, I think we have around 5 in my office right now.
Uh,
Unfortunately, when the economy is good out, we lose qualified attorneys to higher salaries that we can unfortunately not match.
I
I
realize
myself left for 5 years. So
you left for 5 years for private practice and came back, right?
yes,
I realize you alone don't do the hiring. And as you said at the outset, you're basically a trainer. You train young attorneys. But
yes, I am on the hiring committee.
okay,
Um,
but my question is,
always-
considering your own statements earlier in this interview about the incredible rapid demographic change and diversity and the growth in the Hispanic population, and the fact that it's a community of 2 million people, it doesn't sound like 5 bilingual public defenders is quite enough.
It's not. And I try to recruit Hispanics and also people that speak Creole, because that's huge here in Broward County all the time. I teach at Nova Law School, and I try to, for example, reach out to their Hispanic organization. Our salary is not very enticing for attorneys coming out of law school at this time, since they can make a lot more money in the private. But I do actively try to look for both Hispanics and people who speak Creole to come work at our office. I try to help with recruitment. I go to all the public law interest in the local universities. I've also gone to FAMU on behalf of the office. We got to do also a on Zoom recruitment for the New York schools. So I'm constantly trying to recruit people that speak different languages for our office.
Okay. There's a group in Broward County that's very active in following local elections, and Ms. Mastarrigo, you may be a member of it. It is called Hispanic Vote. Has Hispanic Vote issued an endorsement in this race?
They have endorsed me, and I was a member. I stepped down in order to run because it's a pact. As a judicial candidate, I cannot be part of the pact. I was involved with that organization from pretty much the beginning. I don't know if you guys know why it got started. The Hispanic Vote was started back in 2008 when 3 Hispanic judges received opposition just based on their last names. Last names of Hispanics in 2008 were not a popular thing. All 3 of them lost. One of which was Julio Gonzalez, who had one of the highest rankings amongst all of our Broward judges, because back then you used to have to do a survey type paper after every trial. And so the organization got started back then to try to actually inform our Hispanic citizens more of who to vote for, how to vote based on the candidates that were coming up for not only judicial races, but commissioner races, mayor races, anything that affected our local government, and also encouraging Hispanics to get involved and run for local offices.
Okay. Ms. Kistner, we're well aware of the Code of Judicial Conduct, and so, and I know you are too as a candidate. You do a lot of family law. You've done a lot of dissolution of marriage cases, haven't you? Yeah. I'd like to ask you a question about the proposed changes in the alimony statute that the legislature made that have a lot of people extremely concerned, including the family law section of the Florida Bar. But is that a subject you feel you could address in any way?
I think that the concern I've heard more recently with that legislation is not just that portion of it, but it's the portion of the bill that and the law that will change the time sharing requirements that the courts have to impose. And so there's a difference between there being a presumption that the judge has towards, let's say, a 50-50. And when I started practicing, the statute was, the legislature was so against anything called rotating custody that it was very specific in the statute. We've evolved over the years to recognizing both parents as equal parties. And now we've gotten to the point where, the legislature has decided that they're going to tie our hands a little bit more on those issues. So for me, dealing with a lot of my cases deal with kids more so than finances. And so I've served as a guardian ad litem. And there are some cases where 50-50 is fine. That works great. And then there's other cases that it doesn't. And so, I can't get into specifics as to how I would rule, But having the ability in those situations to have discretion, I think is important when you're dealing with children.
Okay. Ms. Kistner, can you tell us what organizations in the community have endorsed your candidacy?
I have not received any public endorsements at this time. I am, basically running a ground game. I am out there meeting voters as often as I possibly can. I've gone to a number of events outside of the events that we are invited to as candidates. Unfortunately, sitting judges can't make endorsements, but I have a very good relationship with not only the people that I appear in front of, but the people that I oppose. I get referrals from attorneys that I've opposed in other cases. That's the greatest compliment to me, because if somebody sees that I've done such good work for other people, that they are willing to put their name behind mine on that to me, that's a great compliment. So I would welcome those public endorsements, but I think I have a lot on as far as a ground game is concerned. A lot of people that have had that experience with me know what I can do, know my professionalism in the courtroom, know how I come prepared, and know that I have the focus always on the best outcome for my clients.
Okay. Ms. Mastarrigo, I would ask you to cite organizations that are prominent in the community that have endorsed your candidacy.
The Broward County Public Police Benevolence Association has endorsed me. The Fraternal Order of Police has endorsed me. And we all attended interviews with Safe Action Pact, and they ended up endorsing me as well.
What is that last organization you cited? What is their
LGBTQ
what kind of
community.
And it's a Save Action Pack? Okay.
Save Action Pact, yes.
We've interviewed candidates in a number of other contested races for judgeships in Broward this week, as you may be aware, and a couple of other candidates cited being endorsed by the Broward Teachers Union. Has the BTU endorsed in this race?
No, I don't think they've reached out to any of us either.
Okay. Any idea why that would be?
I think some of those organizations, some of the other candidates actually reached out to them to try to get endorsements. I have not reached out to them at all. So
right.
I don't know. I mean, we could reach out and have the three of us also interviewed, but I haven't. So they haven't endorsed anyone.
Right. And I don't know that all of the organizations that do endorsements actually do interviews. Save was a great one that we sat down, we had a very nice conversation. They had a questionnaire. So I think that there's definitely organizations that do it that way and others that do it differently.
Okay, go ahead, Dan. Turn your mic on.
Speaking of those organizations that endorse it, Ms. Kistner, your opponent said that she was endorsed by the police union. Did the police unions reach out to you at all?
No, I did not have an interview with either of those organizations.
Okay, thank you. Just double checking.
Ms. Mastarrigo, you've loaned your campaign $100,000. That's a lot of money to almost anybody in Broward County. Tell us why you've chosen to do that.
So for my husband and I, when we were thinking about doing this, and we had been talking about doing this for a while, I never wanted to run against a sitting judge out of all the years of me practicing in the courthouse and also my position with this office. When this one came up, we wanted to go all in. So we were in a position to be blessed to have that. Things just kind of fell into place, and that was money that we have now that I didn't have 5 years ago. And so we just wanted to show that we were serious about it, and I was all in. I was going to do less. My husband's the one that opted for more. So went along with the amount that my hubby ended up convincing me, I guess, of doing.
What kind of work does your husband do?
He's also an attorney. He actually practices probate and estate planning. He's been practicing a little longer than me, I think 2.5 years more than me.
Okay. Ms. Kistner, should voters be concerned about any candidate who makes that kind of a personal investment in a campaign, or is that appropriate?
I'm not here to judge as far as, what somebody puts into their campaign, what they choose to do on a personal level. I think really what voters should be concerned with is the outreach. What are you doing? I mean, if you're spending money and you're just sending things out, that's fine. If you're reaching voters, you're talking to them, you're hearing about their concerns, you're internalizing the things that you're hearing from them. I think that's the thing that they need to concentrate on. And that's why, I've concentrated my efforts in that direction, actually talking to the voters, getting out there, not just talking to attorneys who, are probably the people who are going to, get calls from their relatives saying, who do you vote for? Because you know who they are. When I talk to voters, I try to tell them, my idea is I want you to know, be able to put that face with that name, hear me, ask me questions, find out, what I think a good judicial profile looks like, find out the experience I bring to the table, and anything I can do to do that on a one-on-one basis, I think is fantastic. So I think that's where voters should focus, and not on how much money somebody has to spend on, flyers that might go in the trash, or signs that might get knocked over by a tropical storm between now and August 23rd.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you said that, because, and this goes without saying, but this race will not be decided by attorneys. This race will be decided by the vast majority of primary voters who not only are not attorneys, but who, which is why we're doing what we're doing, because folks who may have had some involvement. Most people at some point in their life do have to go to the courthouse for something. And it's one of you might have mentioned, it's often an unpleasant experience. It's a difficult point in their lives. So, okay. Ms. Mastarrigo, do you have campaign materials that you're distributing to voters, or will you have materials that are in both English and Spanish?
Yes, I have a small little postcard that I have, and the front part is in English, the back part is in Spanish. And then I just got some yard signs. So I'm out there trying to meet the voters as well. I'm very involved in the community, not only through the organizations that I've been involved with, but through my kids' sports. I have coached basketball. I have coached baseball. So I haven't sent anything out. I just have that one little card that is probably the size of a little postcard. I don't know if my video is frozen or not, and you can see how I'm holding my hands up.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can.
But just that one, and then some yard signs. That's all I've spent my money on so far.
You live in Southwest Ranches, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, it's almost a question I ask in passing, but tell us, generally speaking, the racial and ethnic composition of your neighborhood.
Very few minorities. So we got lucky and we moved in the low market in 2009. My husband, being from New Jersey and having grown up with some nice big yards, said that that's what he wanted for our kids. We have a nice lot. I know most of my neighbors around me, but I want to say we're maybe 10% Hispanics. A lot of the folks that live in Southwest Ranches have been there since early 80s.
Okay. I meant to ask you this question earlier. Do you have a paid political or campaign consultant in this race?
I do not have a paid political consultant. No.
Ms. Kistner, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. That's unusual, and I think I'd say a bit refreshing compared to what we've been hearing. Ms. Kistner, I want to ask you the question about, and I realize that, I believe you've loaned your campaign $20,000, and it's a big county. It's a countywide election. It's a big undertaking. What about your ability to have bilingual campaign materials for voters?
That's not something that I have available right now. Of course, the concentration going into the election day and early voting is going to be, the last 45 days or so. And that's where I'm going to focus, most directly on reaching, through those types of media means, as many voters as possible. So, right now, it's not in my literature, but definitely something that will be coming forward.
Okay, Martin, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to ask Ms. Mastarrigo, you have an organization listed in your application called Team of Life. What is that group?
That is Big Mama, E.C. Reed. She lives off of Sunrise and I-95. She's been in that area for over 30 years. She helps families with anything you can think of for inner city families. So I got involved with her when I was with the private firm, which was probably 18 to 20 years ago. And I got involved talking to the youths. I would bring them to a meeting room. We had a building at one of the local city government offices. They would dress up. We would talk about how they can succeed. Big Mama does school supply collections and distribution. She does for Thanksgiving. She does for Christmas, and she actually does it twice a year for Christmas. It's Christmas in July and regular Christmas. So it's a lot of donation work and then actually spreading it out to the community. And it's all very low income families that cannot afford. And without her help and her donations, they would not have anything. So I've been working with her. The joke is always that I've known her longer than I know my husband. And her 3 boys consider me their bigger sister. And she actually predicted when I was pregnant with my daughter. So she claims my daughter as her own. She called me and told me that she had a dream that I was pregnant. And within the week, I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. So she you do not find somebody with a bigger heart. That woman, if you Google Big Mama and Team of Life, that woman has done everything with nothing.
Yeah. Martin, we've done multiple stories on Big Mama's turkey giveaways every Thanksgiving. It's if you look at Google, you'll find year after year stories from the Sun Sentinel on Big Mama handing out turkeys. Yeah,
She's amazing.
I
don't know how she has the
legendary
energy.
figure.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I didn't ask you, Ms. Mastarrigo, whether you have ever gone through the appointment process to become a judge through the Judicial Nominating.
I have. I've applied a few times. I have always gone interviews. I have not gone out of committee. I applied when I was younger in my legal profession, and that was usually what was relayed to me after everything was said and done and the committee members were actually able to speak to us, was that I hadn't been practicing long enough or I didn't have enough experience. So finally, at one point, I had said, it's not going to happen that way. So when I'm ready to do it, I'll do it through election.
Do you have an opinion as to why you didn't get further along through the Judicial Nominating Commission?
Yes and no, but nothing confirmed. I think it doesn't help being an assistant public defender to get to the governor, unfortunately. I don't think that helped.
It's understand. It's a well-known fact. I know in the legal community in Broward, it has been almost 30 years since a public defender was appointed to a judgeship.
Yes.
I may not have my history exactly right, but it might have been Gary Coward. I forget who it was, frankly. But
I think it was Judge Diaz was the last one to get appointed. And it was by Governor Childs.
Okay, Judge Bob Diaz. Okay.
Yes.
That phenomenon prevailed statewide as well. And in an exhaustive search of JNC members, I found very few who apparently had that background.
Yeah. Okay. We had the 3 of us interviewed candidates in a couple of Broward judicial races yesterday that were, I think it's putting it mildly, one of them, they were highly contentious, and they're only going to get more so. So it's refreshing to see the 2 of you, to hear the 2 of you deal in factual and friendly and non-confrontational exchanges here. So I want to give a couple of minutes at the very end here. We've gone for 45 minutes. I want to let each of you make sort of a summation, closing statement, why you feel you're the best candidate for this position. Please try to keep it to about a minute or so, minute and a half, and we'll do it alphabetically. So we'll begin with you, Denise Kistner.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, this is something I decided to do a very long time ago. And so the way that I've practiced for over 25 years, I think has put me in a great position to be able to do this. I've been in the courtroom a tremendous amount of time. I have represented hundreds of clients from all different areas, all different backgrounds, different social issues have been involved in the cases. The crossover between family and dependency with other areas of the law has forced me to also be mindful as I'm representing clients, to have an understanding of other areas. My appellate work has given me the ability to be the reader that my friends call me, and to be prepared and know how to find out anything that I haven't already learned in my experience. And with all of that, I think that I can be the best judge. I have the most diverse of background bringing into this race, and I think that will benefit the people that I serve. I've also spent a lot of time making relationships with everybody that I deal with, whether it's the clerks, whether it's the bailiffs, the judges, the other attorneys, caseworkers. And, even in the most contentious races, things are left in the courtroom, and I handle things that way so that it's always about the cases. And I think that's a really good thing to take into the judiciary, to make it always about the case, not about the attorney who's appearing in front of you, not about the color of the skin of the person who's the litigant, or their financial abilities, and to be as fair and mindful of all of those things as possible. So I believe that's where I would be the best judge.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Mastarrigo, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have been in the trenches for 23 years. I know how trials work. I have participated in many trials. I know my objections. I know the evidence rules, and I know that's very important to attorneys, because one of the biggest frustrations is appearing in front of a judge who, based on every organization and every opportunity, any appointment and award that I have received throughout the years, shows that my colleagues and the judiciary do find me to be professional and know that what I'm doing is correct. I was appointed also and currently sit as a vice chair for the Florida Bar Criminal Procedure Rules Committee, where actually I have to go to the convention tomorrow. I have been the recipient of the 2017 Hispanic Woman of Distinction. And these are all things that I have been appointed to through nomination of colleagues and judges who have known me. I think that being in the trenches and knowing how every day works in that courtroom, through trials, through jury trials, through sentencings. I have practiced family law for 2 years when I was in the private sector, and I am willing to learn any new law that I need to learn, because I educate now and I have no problem reading case law and then passing it down. I also now teach at Nova Law School trial advocacy as a adjunct professor. And again, that's something that I was asked to apply for and receive the job based on my involvement with that law school. And it's not even my alma mater. I went to University of Miami Law School, but I just like to be involved and just help and pass it on. I have had so many opportunities, and the United States has given me so much that I want to pass it on, and I want to be a mentor to anybody who's willing to take me as a mentor. And based on all of that and my temperament, I think I would be the best choice to sit on that bench. I know the good, the bad from appearing in front of different judges, not only in Broward County, but in Palm Beach and in Miami when I was in the private sector for 5 years. And it's a different world. Even though the 3 counties are right next to each other, it's a complete different world when you cross those county lines. So based on all of that is why I think I would be the better choice for circuit court judge.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mastarrigo, and thank you, Denise Kistner, very much for being with us this afternoon. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye.